Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the One to Know podcast. I'm Joel Haas.
I'm Lexie Linderman.
And I'm Lyle Alenstein.
We took a bye week last week because we were in Indianapolis covering Big Ten Media Days. I know everyone missed us, but now we're back, so it's okay. We had a fun time out there, sort of. It was a little bit weird, and James Franklin talked a lot, but he didn't really say a lot. If you catch my drift, kind of a whole lot of nothing from Big Ten Media Days. One thing that was a little bit interesting, he did say that Abdul Carter, who switched from linebacker to defensive end this offseason, he said he'll actually be going back and forth, so maybe kind of like a hybrid edge position, which I think is a good move just because he's arguably your best defensive player. So just adding that extra element of mystery where you're not really sure where he's going to line up week to week kind of makes it even more dangerous to game plan for opposing offenses. But other than that, I didn't really think there was anything too important from Franklin this last week. Lexi, I don't know if you had any other takeaways.
Yeah, I didn't think he really said that much as well. It was kind of everything we already knew. I think because it's of a more national scale event that he kind of has to go back through all the stuff that like the local media already knows from all his older press conferences and stuff. But yeah, I think the big storyline was Abdul Carter being hybrid. And he said a lot. He talked a lot about that, both in his like big press conference and his smaller one. And basically said that it's going to be a huge advantage for them because, teams won't be able to game plan for him as well because they don't know, which if he's going to line up as defensive end or linebacker like the whole time because he won't be. So that's big. And other than that, I don't really think there was that much else that he talked about. He talked a lot about his three new coordinators, Kodal, Nicky, Allen, and Lustig, but I mean, we've gone through that already. He's gone through that many times. So yeah, like Joel said, he said a lot without saying that much. So
Yeah. I mean, he did confirm that Jackson Smolik has a long-term injury, which he had already said previously, but this time around, it kind of seems like it's a bit longer than I think what people were anticipating before. It sounds like he won't be ready for week one, and I don't know if he'll miss the entire season or not, but it sounds like he'll be out for, an extended period of time. So right now you're looking at behind Aller and Prabula, you're looking at Grunkemeyer, the true freshman, coming in as that QB3, potentially getting some reps, maybe against Bowling Green or something like that. But we did see some footage from Brad Mandler, who's the quarterback trainer who also worked with Drew Aller. He posted some footage of Grunkemeyer throwing, and I thought it looked pretty good, pretty smooth. Um, so, I mean, that's a little bit exciting. Fans might get to see him some this season with Smolik being out for, who knows how long. So just a little update there on the quarterback situation, but again, not too important when you're talking about, the third and fourth string quarterbacks. As long as, Aller and Prabula are healthy, there's probably not much to worry about there if you're Penn State. But still an interesting update, I think, just because it does come at the quarterback position, which is always, a talking point and always something important. But moving on from that, Penn State did pick up a pair of commitments this week. The first one coming from wide receiver Jasir Rogers. I hope I'm saying that right. So Penn State finally picks up its wide receiver commit that it's been looking for. The problem is he's in the 2026 class and not the 2025 class. So he'll be a year later than Penn State would have wanted. But he's currently unranked. That'll probably change soon. It might even change by the time this podcast comes out. Usually, when Penn State picks up an unranked guy, those recruiting services get right on it. They get those rankings in usually within about a week. So he'll probably have his rankings soon. We'll keep you guys updated on that if anything new comes in. Currently unranked, but while I know you got to look at his film, what did you see from him?
Yeah, so he's ranked by On3. It was like right after Penn State I got the commitment from him. He's the number 55 wide receiver nationally and number one player in the state of Delaware. So obviously he's still unranked on the other three major recruiting platforms. So we don't really have a composite. I'm sure the industry will pick that up pretty shortly. But I mean, grain of salt with considering he's unranked. Obviously, you could look at it, it's like, yeah, who is this guy? His competition in Delaware is not all that. But at the same time, you have to trust Penn State recruiting staff because if they're ahead in recruiting and everyone's going to pick him up, he probably is going to get that traction shortly. But I think obviously Penn State, this is a high power program that everyone knows, they're legit and they have been for a while. And they don't just throw out offers for no reason. And he came to camp this summer for 7-on-7 as well. And he really impressed. And one thing I noticed about him, he's a freak athlete. And I'm not just saying that lightly. He ran a 40 in like the 4.3 range. His broad jump, I don't have the number exactly, but I remember seeing somewhere that it was like off the charts, like something you kind of take notice. And just he's a really good wide receiver. He's a good deep threat over the middle. He high points the ball really well on jump balls, really strong. He's just got all the intangibles you're kind of looking for in a do-it-all kind of receiver. Obviously, 2026, so a little bit of time till he gets on campus, but his recruiting rating can shoot up. Maybe you can see why Penn State went after him. Obviously, I'm not looking at it too much right now, considering we don't really know a whole lot of him based on how recruiters view him. But solid pickup. It's good to see Marcus Hagans bring in a wide receiver, considering what's going on in 2025. Obviously, got a couple of guys about to set some dates real soon, but we'll see. I don't know. Solid pickup.
Yeah, currently listed at 6'1", 170, but just coming off his sophomore season of high school, he's still got time to potentially grow a little bit bigger. Like you mentioned, obviously put some more on film. I think the biggest thing, like you said, is kind of that deep ball threat. He's got that speed. He can kind of break away downfield, get open, high points the ball really well. So I think that's kind of something Penn State's been missing, kind of that deep threat. But again, that's a few years down the line before he actually arrives on campus. And then another commitment in the class of 2026 comes from offensive tackle Kevin Brown. And Lexie, I know you got to look at his film. So what do you see from Brown?
I think it's just a huge get for Franklin and Penn State in general, just because he is the #1 player in Pennsylvania right now for the class of 2026. And, there's been a lot in the media this past offseason about how they've been struggling to get the top guys in Pennsylvania for the 2025 class. I think it was the top 7. They missed out on all top 7 guys in Pennsylvania. So this is a huge early get for Penn State. He's 6'5" already going to his junior year, and he's at 270. So definitely some room to bulk up there, which is good for him because that means he'll probably hit his athletic peak on campus. And if he goes to the NFL there too, he probably has some room to like a few more inches coming to maybe like to 6'6" or 6'7". He also is just really naturally strong. I mean, he just kind of throws these defenders to the ground. The pancake blocks are just the guy's just completely overpowered on the ground. He does a really good job reading defenders, getting ahead of his blocks and everything. So I think it's a really big pickup for Penn State, and definitely huge just considering his ranking in Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah, you just talked about something important with the dominate the state thing, considering in 2025 they missed out on all those top tier talent. And with Kevin Brown being the #1 guy, you also have his teammate at Harrisburg, Messiah Mickens, who's the #3 guy in Pennsylvania. So when you're looking at a recruiting class for 2026 right now, that you have 2 of the top guys from Pennsylvania on top of a top 10 quarterback in Troy Huon and Rogers with a guy with a lot of upside. I think that's a good start for Franklin and company right now for the 2026, considering I don't want to say backlash with 2025 because a lot of it's just centered around missing wide receivers and in-state talent. Obviously, by the end of the cycle, I feel like it's going to be a fringe top 10 class, maybe 15 range, but I think 2026 is off to a good start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the class right now, and it's currently ranked #4 in the country via the 247 composite, and that's with one of the players currently unranked. So it, potentially could even be in the top 3 once Rogers gets his ranking from 247. But yeah, I mean, Kevin Brown, and then you mentioned quarterback Troy Huon, running back Messiah Mickens, all very highly rated players, high 4 stars. Even I would say with the potential to become a 5-star down the line, there's still a lot of time before these rankings are finalized. And that's a really good building block for this 2026 class. You like having some really high profile recruits in the class. And we've heard some good stuff about them doing some peer recruiting, reaching out to other recruits and trying to bring them into Penn State. So it's always good when you can get a few, high profile guys into the class early, especially when they're in-state guys who you feel pretty confident, they're not going to be flipping. They're not going to be taking official visits to other schools and things like that. And now they can start helping the recruiting staff, peer recruiting, to help really build out a solid class here. And I mean, it's very early in the cycle, but I think this 2026 class could potentially end up being a top 10, maybe even top 5 class. And I think it could end up being just as good as that 2022 class that we saw a few cycles ago with Aller, Singleton, Katron, Abdul, Denai Dennis Sutton, KJ Winston, all those guys. I think this class really could end up rivaling that one as one of the best under Franklin. But again, really long way to go. Only 4 commitments so far. But Penn State really getting the ball rolling early here on that class. Yeah, really good start and some good pickups with 2 of the top 3 players in Pennsylvania. In other news, 4-star edge recruit Max Granville reclassified up from the 2025 class to the 2024 class. So he'll now be on campus for this season as a true freshman a year early, which obviously speaks to his ability and the staff's confidence in him and his ability to transition to the next level a year early after only 3 seasons of high school ball. Lyle, what did you think of that move?
Yeah, I think it's a good move in terms of just being able to get him on campus. Obviously, met the NCAA's early academic qualifier. So shout out Max, getting those grades up, being able to just get right on campus, shortly after you decided to commit to Penn State. But in terms of immediate impact this year, I think you burn the red shirt. Obviously, I hope we get to see him in some garbage time action. And obviously, I'm excited to see him when we get out on practice field for some open practice sessions. But I think that he's really good. You see what Deion Barnes has been doing recently with recruiting and producing talent off the edge. And I just think he's next in line. Obviously, I think Jalen Harvey is the only guy in the 2024 freshman class that's rated higher than him based on the 247 composite. But I think skill level, Max Granville is better. I think, and that's not a knock on Harvey. I think he's really good. And I wouldn't be shocked if 2 years down the line, 3 years, these are the starting edge rushers for Penn State. So I'm excited to see Granville. I mean, as soon as we get him on campus, I know we got Penn State Media Day, open practice viewing session. So hopefully you get to see him out there unless they're going to hide him from the media. But you never know. And then the other thing my takeaway from this was it leaves a spot open if they wanted to go recruit another guy in the 2025 class. Because right now they've got Cortez Harris, pair of 4 stars in Cortez Harris and Jaden Woods. I'm really excited about Woods down the line. Harris, I think he's a little undersized. I mean, he's more of a speed rusher, so I can get that. I think he needs to put on some weight if you want to get him on the edge in college. But you never know. The guy could pop on the recruiting class right now. I think they've got Zahir Mathis, Ohio State commit, who's now been on campus twice since during the summer session, one time for an official visit, the weekend that Cortez Harris committed, because Cortez Harris posted a picture of them on his Instagram story together. So Cortez, I know you're seeing this, so appreciate that little insight. And then he was there this past weekend because Ohio State was one of the only schools in the country in terms of like relevant Power 4 programs that didn't have any sort of barbecue recruiting event for anybody. So you hear Mathis, Emmett Institute charter guy. Obviously, you've got Penn State with guys like Kenny Woosley, Tessier Denmark, Keon Wiley. And it's an intriguing option. If he's back on campus twice during the summer, you never know if he can flip. So, and I know Deion Barnes, Philly guy, just like Mathis, wouldn't be shocked if I see him get on board soon.
Are you going to put in your official prediction for a flip? You're 1 for 1 right now.
Not yet.
Okay.
Actually, I might issue one for Cyrus a month from now, but that's down the line. It's down the line.
For Cyrus.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about that later, though.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We talked about the future years of Penn State football, but now going into the past, some of the guys who have already graduated and are now in the NFL. Some news from training camp getting started, some guys fighting for roster spots, some guys, moving around a little bit. Why don't we start with quarterback Sean Clifford, who had about 24 hours as a potential starter for Green Bay before Jordan Love signed that deal to become the highest paid player in the NFL. It was about a day there where Love was refusing to play, I believe, for training camp. So Sean Clifford was getting reps with the ones, and I think it went not great for Sean. I think I heard like record-breaking number of interceptions or something like that for Clifford, but yeah, so not great there for the former Penn State quarterback. But also on the team, Kalen King, we did see some footage of him. Looks like he's playing well over there at cornerback. I believe they have him playing as a nickel back now. And we saw he had an interception on Jordan Love, which is actually interesting because apparently the Packers don't allow the media to record at practice. So someone like snuck their phone out for a video or whatever, and I found it and like retweeted that. But yeah, I don't know. Have there been any NFL guys that have stood out to you, whether, they're moving around different teams or just something impressive they've done during camp?
I'm a big Kalen King guy. I've said that in the past. I know we talked about it before the draft episode of the pod, where I said Kalen King should be earlier than how he's valued just because of his upside before. He was a projected top 10 pick. And obviously he didn't have the season he wanted, opted out. But the upside on him has always been ridiculous to college, and he's proven it. When Joey Porter Jr. was there and he was taking the wide receiver ones, people were throwing at King, and they kind of had the same result, and it was not good. He was clamping everybody up with the wide receivers. And I think 7th round, I was like, I remember in April and during the draft, I kept seeing him fall. I'm like, this guy's got to go soon, right? Like, I don't know. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think picking up Jordan Love, NFL's now history's highest paid quarterback. I think he was just kind of doing justice for Sean Clifford a little bit there because, helping out his former teammate. I don't know. I'm excited for him. Obviously, that Green Bay team, the secondary, it's like you don't really need him to go out there right now, but if he proves himself, I wouldn't be shocked if later in the season or if they're like tanking. I don't think they will be tanking for whatever reason, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him on the field.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kalen's one of those guys that throughout the whole offseason has been talked about as a high ceiling guy. And I think if he hits that ceiling, it's going to be a steal for the Packers. But I also think Olu's looked good so far. I mean, obviously, that was expected of him. But it's also cool to see him in a Jets uniform. I'm sure cool for Jets fans too to see him living up to the hype and everything. And I'm intrigued. I think Theo Johnson's starting on the PUP list, but I'm interested to see when he is healed and ready to go, how he is used by the Giants with Darren Waller retiring. I think he can easily slide into that tight end number 1 role. So interesting to see if he starts taking reps as a starter when he recovers from his injury.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to hit on Jahan Dotson. I
Bias.
think he's due for a breakout year. There's no bias. Completely
Bias.
unbiased. Completely unbiased. I think he's due for a breakout year, just because he actually has a quarterback throwing him the ball now instead of like a Walmart employee. We've got Jaden Daniels at quarterback, who I think has the best deep ball of any quarterback that Dotson has played with.
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell?
Justice for Sam
No.
Howell. Justice
No.
for Sam Howell.
No. Sam Howell would get sacked before Dotson even got open. I think breakout season coming for Jahan Dotson. We saw some good stuff from training camp. It seems like, he's all the traits that you saw at Penn State were kind of on display with the crisp route running, good hands, everything like that. I think he's poised for a breakout season now that he has a better quarterback and just upgraded playmakers around him, kind of taking less pressure off of him. I think a little bit of a down year last year. I'm expecting probably, I would guess 800 yards this year. That's my prediction. I'll put that on the record. That's it for this week's episode of the 1-0 podcast. We'll have more coverage coming at you guys soon from Penn State's Media Day, so stay tuned for that. You can find us at psucollegian.com and follow us on socials to keep up with the latest Penn State football news. We'll see you next time.